Sorry, I was talking on a mute. Do you like Prabhuji? You can do like Sanskrit verse also.
Yes, Mataji. So you are going to recite Sanskrit, and
Yeah.
in the
No,
left,
but
Mataji
if
Stan
you
is
can,
going to do English.
yeah, but if you can put Sanskrit verse, so I can.
Oh, okay, okay, that one. Oh, sorry, apologies, Mataji. Okay, yeah, sure.
Hare Krishna. Can I start now?
Yes, Mataji,
Yeah.
please.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 17, chapter 18 concludes the perfection of renovations. Text 27. Ragi karma phale preshu lopyo himsatmako suchi harsa sokha vitam karta rajasa parikirtita.
Hare Krishna translation. The worker who is attached to work and the fruits of work, desiring to enjoy those fruits, and who is greedy, always envious, impure, and moved by joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mood of passion. Hare Krishna.
अयुक्त प्राकृत स्तब्धः सहष्टो निष्कृतिको लसः विषादी दीर्घसूत्री च कर्ता तामस उच्यते.
Translation. The worker who is always engaged in work against the injunctions of the scripture, who is materialistic, obstinate, cheating and expert in insulting others, and who is lazy, always morose, and procrastinating, is said to be a worker in the mode of ignorance.
उद्धे वेदं तु तेश्चैव गुणतः स्त्रीपुं शृणु प्रोच्यमानमशेषेण पृथक्त्वेन धनञ्जय.
Translation. O winner of wealth, now please listen as I tell you in detail of the different kinds of understanding and determination according to three modes of material nature.
प्रवृत्तिं च निवृत्तिं च कार्यकार्ये भयाभये बन्धं मोक्षं च या वेत्ति बुद्धिः सा पार्थ सात्विकी.
O son of Partha, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness.
यथा यया धर्म अधर्मश्च कार्यचाकार्य एव च अयथा व्रत प्रजा नान्ति बुद्धि अयच प्रजानान्ति बुद्धि सा पार्थ राजसी.
O son of Pritha, that understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, is in the mode of patience.
अधर्माधर्मैतीया मन्यते तमसावृता सर्वथा विपरीताश्च बुद्धि सा पार्थ तामसी.
That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion, under the spell of illusion and darkness, and strives always in the wrong direction. Partha is in the mood of ignorance.
धृत्यायया धारयते मनः प्राणेन्द्रियक्रिया योगिना व्यभिचारिण्या धृतिशा पार्थ सात्विकी.
O son of Pritha, the determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and which thus controls the activity of the mind, life, and senses, is determination in the mood of goodness.
यया तु धर्मकामार्थः तुत्वा धारयते अर्जुन प्रसन्नेन फलाकाङ्क्षी तृप्तिः सा पार्थ राजसी.
But that determination by which one holds fast to fruitive results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is nature of passion. O Arjuna,
यया स्वप्न भयं शोकं विषादं मदमेव च न विमुच्यन्ति दुर्मेध्या धृतिः सा पार्थ तामसी.
and that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, more senses, and illusion. Such unintelligent determination, O son of Pritha, is in the mood of darkness.
सुखं स्विदानि त्रिविधं शृणु मे भरतर्षभ अभ्यासान्द्रमते यत्र दुःखान्तं च निगच्छति.
O best of the Bharatas, now please hear me from me about the three kinds of happiness, by which conditioned soul enjoys and by which sometimes comes to the end of all distress.
यतद्रके विषम इव परिणामे मृतोपमं तत्सुखं सात्विकं प्रोक्तम् आत्मबुद्धिप्रसादजम्.
That which in the beginning may just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization is said to be happiness in the mode of godness.
विषयेन्द्रियसंयोग त्यक्तन्द्रङ्गे अमृतोपमं परिणामे विषमिव तत्सुखं राजसं स्मृतम्.
The happiness which is derived from contact of senses with the objects and which appears like nectar at first but poison at the end is said to be nature of poison. Passion.
अद्वन्द्वे चानुबन्धे च सुखं मोहन आत्मनः निन्द्रा आलस्य प्रमादोत्थं ततामसमुद्रायतम्.
And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance.
न त्वदस्ति पृथिव्या वा दिवि देवेषु वा पुनः सत्त्वं प्रकृति चेमोक्तं यद्भिः त्रिभिः गुणैः.
There is no being existing, either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, which is freed from these three modes born of material nature.
ब्राह्मणक्षत्रियविशां शूद्राणां च परन्तप कर्माणि प्रविभक्तानि स्वभावप्रभवे गुणे.
Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures in accordance with the material modes, or chastures of enemy.
समो दम तपः शौचं क्षान्तिराजवयेव च ज्ञानं विज्ञान आस्तिक्यं ब्रह्मकर्म स्वभावजम्.
Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work.
सूर्यतेजो धृतिराक्षं युद्धे चाप्यपलाययम्.
Heroism, power, determination,
I
resourcefulness.
didn't fin- Sorry, I did not finish it. सूर्यतेजो धृता द्राक्षं युद्धे चाप्यपलायमम्. दानमीश्वरं भावश्च क्षात्रं कर्म स्वभावजम्.
Translation: Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas.
ऋषिगोरक्षवाणिज्यं वेश्यकर्म स्वभावजं परिचयात्मकं कर्म श्रुतस्यापि स्वभावजम्.
Farming, cow protection, and business are the natural work for the Vaishyas, and for the Sudras there are labor and service to do others.
स्वे स्वे कर्मणा विहित संसिद्धि लभते नर सकर्म स्वकर्म निरन्तरसिद्धिं यथा विदन्ति तच्छृणु.
By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done.
यथा प्रवृत्तिभूतानां येन सर्व इदं ततं स्वकर्मणा तमभ्यस्य भव्य सिद्धिविदन्ति मानव.
By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work.
श्रेया स्वधर्मविगुण परधर्मास्वनुष्ठितात् स्वभाव नियतं कर्म कुर्वन्नानोक्ति किल्बिषम्.
It is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions.
सहज कर्म कौन्तेय सदोष अपि न त्यजेत् स्वरारम्भा हि दोषेण धूमेनाग्नि निरावृतात्.
Every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault.
असक्त बुद्धि सर्वत्र चितात्मा विगत स्पृह निष्कर्म सिद्धि परमां संन्यासेनाधिगच्छति.
One who is self-controlled and unattached and who disregards all material enjoyments can obtain by practice of renunciation the highest perfect stage of freedom from reaction.
सिद्धिं प्राप्तो यथा ब्रह्म तथाप्नोति निबोध मे समासेनैव कौन्तेय निष्ठा ज्ञानस्य या परा.
O son of Kunti, learn from me how one who has achieved this perfection can attain to the to the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman, the stage of the highest knowledge, by acting in a way I shall now summarize.
Buddhya visuddhya yukto dhutatman niyamya chaha sadabdi visayasya vyaktya ragadvesi yudashya vivikta sevitlabdasi yatava kayamanasa dhyana yoga paro nityam vairagya samuasrita ahankara balam darpa kamam krodha parigraham vimuchya nirmama santo brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, who controls his body, mind, and power of speech, who is always in trance, and who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship, and peaceful, such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji, and thank you so much, Manmohini, Mataji, and family, and Prabhuji and your Tati. Everyone recited very nicely and beautifully. Thank you so much, Meena Mataji, as well. So
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So we shall move on to the next part of our program in Japa session. Okay, so before we start our Japa, so can I request any dear devotees to do Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya 3 times, and then we shall start the Japa.
Prabhu, Arju will do it.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna everyone. So if anyone has not yet completed the chanting, so kindly complete the chanting behind. So meanwhile we shall enter into the next part of our program, that is Kirtan. So today it is Kirtan by Bhaktini Mampi Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mahaprabhu.
Do you want a screen to share with Damodarashtakam or you are happy with?
Yes, Prabhu, please, if you don't mind. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you. Namameshwaram Sachitanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Vrajamanam Yashoda Violu Khalad Dwamana Param Stram Atyanta Todrutya Gopya Rudantam Muhurnetra Yugmam Rejantam Karam Bhoja Yugmena Satanekanetra Rudantam Muhurnetra Yugmam Rejantam Karam Bhoja Yugmena Satanekanetra Muhu swasakam patri rekhanka kantha Sthita graivam damodaram bhaktibadha Muhu swasakam patri rekhanka kantha स्थिताग्रैवं दामोदरां भक्तिबद्धाम् इति द्राक्स्वलीलाभिरानन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषां निमज्जन्ताम् अखयपयन्ताम् इति द्राक्स्वलीलाभिरानन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषां निमज्जन्ताम् अखयपयन्ताम् तदीये सीतागेषु भक्तर्जितात्वान् पुनः प्रेमतास्तां सत्तावृत्ति वन्दे तदीये सीतागेषु भक्तर्जितात्वान् पुनः प्रेमतास्तां सत्तावृत्ति वन्दे वरं देवमोक्षं न मोक्षावधिं वा न चान्यां वनेहां वरिसादपीहाम् वरं देवमोक्षं न मोक्षावधिं वा न चान्यां वनेहां वरिसादपीहाम् इदं ते वपुर्नाथ गोपाल बाला सदा मे मनस्या अभिरस्तां किमन्या इदं ते वपुर्नाथ गोपाल बाला सदा मे मनस्या अभिरस्तां किम् अन्या इदं ते मुखां भोजाम् अत्यन्तनीला वृता कुन्तलाय स्निग्धा रक्तायश्च गोप्या इदं ते मुखां भोजाम् अत्यन्तनीला भृतां कुन्तलाय स्निग्धा रक्तायश्च गोप्या मुहुश्चुम्बितां बिम्बारक्ताधरां मे मनस्या अभिरास्ताम् अलमलक्षलभाय मुहुश्चुम्बितां बिम्बारक्ताधरां मे मनस्याभिरास्ताम् अलमलक्षलभाय नमो देवदामोदरानन्त विष्णो प्रसीद प्रभो दुःखजलधिमग्नाम् नमो देवदामोदरानन्त विष्णो प्रसीद प्रभो दुःखजलधिमग्नाम् कृपा दृष्टिवृष्ट्याति दिनां बतानु गृहाणे समामाज्ञाम् इध्यायक्षीदृश्या कृपा दृष्टिवृष्ट्याति दिनां बतानु गृहाणे समामाज्ञाम् इध्यायक्षीदृश्या कुबेरात्मजाौ बाधा मूर्तायव याद्वा त्वया मोचितौ भक्ति भजौ कृतौ च कुबेरात्मजाौ बाधा मूर्तायव याद्वा त्वया मोचितौ भक्ति भजौ कृतौ च तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वाकामे प्रायाच्छ न मोक्षे ग्रहो मे स्थितमोदरेह तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वाकामे प्रायाच्छ न मोक्षे ग्रहो मे स्थितमोदरेह नमस्ते स्तुधाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिधाम्ने त्वदीयोदरायाथा विश्वास्य धाम्ने नमस्ते स्तुधाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिधाम्ने त्वदीयोदरायाथा विश्वास्य धाम्ने नमो राधिकाय त्वदीया प्रियाय नमो नन्तलीलाय Devaya Tubhyaya. Namo Radhikaya Tvadiya Priyaya. Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyaya. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, so beautiful. So beginning with Damodara Ashtakam, so the Rasa Purnami, Sharadiya Rasa Purnami. Thank you so much Mataji, so beautiful.
Hari Bol, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so we shall move to the next part of our program. Next is Mangala Charan prayers by I forgot, let me just check the location. Oh, Sadak Prabhuji, apologies.
Hare Krishna. I'm ready for that.
Yes, sir. If you're ready, Prabhuji, so kindly.
So can I start, please?
Yes, Prabhuji, yes.
Krishna.
Still Damodara Ashtakam is there. Yeah. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, I'll just stop sharing that.
Okay then.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Okay. Amagana Timranjisha. Okay. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Amagana Timranjisha Gananjana Sarakaya. Chakritam Janatasmai Shri Gurufai Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Madhavishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamazam Dadati Sapadam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guran Vashnamam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Shindu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Kapesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vindavane Vishabhanu Shuddha Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpaturu Bhasha Kibhashinve Vacha Patitanam Pavanibha Vaishnavaipa Namo Namo Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Adaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So beautiful.
Thanks as well.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Okay. Okay, so next part is Premadvani prayers by Bhaktini Sakshi Gangavir Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji, if you are ready. So
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, yes. Premadvani prayers Jai Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajakaacharya Ashottara Shata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti A Vedanta AC Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Jai Om Vishnupadaya Paramhansa Parivrajakaacharya Ashottara Shata Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai
Jai.
Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki
Jai.
ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद जय अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवास गौर भक्त वृंदा की
Jai.
श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपा गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की
Jai.
वृंदावन धाम की
Jai.
मथुरा धाम की
Jai.
नवद्वीप धाम की
Jai.
जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की
Jai.
गंगा माई की
Jai.
यमुना माई की
Jai.
तुलसी देवी की
Jai.
भक्ति देवी की
Jai.
संकीर्तन यज्ञ की
Jai.
बृहद मृदंगा की
Jai.
समवेता भक्त वृंदा की
Jai.
गौर प्रेमानंदे
Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol.
all glories to the assembled devotees Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
all glories to the assembled devotees Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Neelachal.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
sir.
Krishna. Thank you.
So beautifully done. You have led very nicely, Mataji. Thank you. Okay, so that is from Premadhvani prayers, and we shall, if you're all happy, we shall move on to the next part of our program, that is Bhagavad Gita. So by Vipina Vihari Rasa Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for kindly coming to our Sangha and to share all the nectar of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and also some few statements on Damodarashtakam and Damodara month as well. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So I shall hand over this session to you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, everyone, every devotee. As always, happy to have your association, every time. And happy to see that everyone is still committed and still comes to this Sangha every Saturday. And thank you for sparing your time to come and hear a little bit of Bhagavad Gita. I will try to share whatever little I have been able to understand from Prabhupada's books and from our spiritual masters. So without any delay, I will share the screen and then we will start. Just give me 1 second. So there you are. So are you able to see this screen?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, thank you. I hope you're all with me throughout this session. I can't see your camera. If you don't feel comfortable, that's okay. That's not a problem. But as far as you are paying attention and you are hearing, that should be okay. Because I don't want to feel that I'm talking to myself when I don't see anyone. But anyway, yeah, I'm sure you are all tuning and you're able to understand and hear. And please do ask questions towards the end if you have any. So a couple of weeks ago, we were discussing. I understand that when I stopped last time, I think it was 2 weeks ago, it was verse 47. And we are planning to start from this verse again. But as you can see, I'm actually showing you the whole chapter. And there is a reason for that. This chapter is called Moksha Yoga. This chapter is chapter 18. It's called Moksha Yoga. So this is the last chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, as you're aware. And Krishna discusses subject matters which are very elevated. It takes lots of time to understand, to digest, to realize, to meditate on these instructions. For sadhakas, which means those who are starting their spiritual life or new in spiritual life, this is a subject matter or a chapter which is actually quite, I would say, complex, and it deals with very elevated topics. This subject of renunciation is a subject which was asked by Arjun in the beginning, and that is why I'm actually showing this whole chapter. I just wanted to highlight on the first two verses of this chapter, which are actually Arjun's question. So verse 1. So I will just read the translation very quickly. It is just a recap. I'm sure you all gone through this in previous sessions and you've all discussed this. But because we are now moving into the 47, 48, 49 onwards, we are quite deep into this chapter. So just to remind, the connection of what we are discussing and what was asked in the beginning, because this will come up again. So to avoid losing track and to divert and to digress from the subject matter, I thought was important for us to go back to the question which Arjun asked in the beginning. Arjun actually said, "Almighty Armed One, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, Tyaga, and of the renounced order of life, Sannyasa, O killer of the Kesha demon, master of the senses." So this was the question right in the beginning, which Arjun asked Krishna. What is Tyag? What is renunciation? And what is that order of life, that sannyas, which we all talk about? Now let's go to the next one. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men call the renounced order of life. And giving up the results of all activities is what the wise call renunciation, Tyaga. So Tyaga means to renounce activities, and for those who are who have renounced, give up all the activities which are based on material desire, are sannyasis. Now let's go to our subject matter, which we were actually discussing. So I just wanted to remind you of this because this will come up and it will actually connect to the question which was asked right in the beginning by Arjun. So just keep this in the background, and we will come to those two statements later on. So the last verse which we discussed last week or a couple of weeks ago was 1847. So Krishna here is saying it is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. So we discussed this last week. I'm not going to take too much time on this at the moment, but just wanted to recap very quickly. So we're talking here of the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And Krishna is saying here that the Brahmanas have got their qualities and their work. Likewise, the Shudras, the Vaishyas, the Kshatriya. And if one is performing activity based on the qualities of a Brahmana. One should not practice. If one is a Brahmana, one should stick to one's own, activities and work, rather than doing somebody else's activities and work. For example, a Brahmana doing a Kshatriya work, or a Kshatriya doing a Vaishya work, or a Shudra work, like that. What Krishna is saying here is that even though there are imperfections in those activities, for example, Prabhupada gives examples here that for someone who is a Brahmana is sometimes involved in activities which are killing animals for sacrifices. And that doesn't mean that these activities are abominable, and the Brahmana has to actually discard those activities and take up the duty of a Vaishya or Shudra. What Krishna here is saying, even though this work is allocated for a Brahmana, even though there are some flaws or sinful actions or actions which are abominable, one should not give up these actions, but one should continue doing this work because this is prescribed for the Brahmana. What he says is that even though there are flaws in it,
the twin Voyagers have been making spectacular.
Sorry. Is everything okay? I think there was some background noise.
Yes, some background. Prabhuji, could you please zoom in this screen so it is true?
Okay. Did I close it?
No.
Let me try it again. I think I closed it, but oh no, it's here. Let me see. Okay, is that better?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, I increased it by 125 now. Yeah, so what Prabhupada explains in the purport is that one should not actually give up the work of the Brahmana, even though there's some killing involved. For example, Prabhupada says here, even Brahmanas who perform different types of sacrifice sometimes must kill animals because animals are sacrificed in such ceremonies. Similarly, if a Kshatriya is engaged in his own occupation and kills an enemy, there is no sin incurred. In the third chapter, this was all clearly described. So even though there are some flaws involved, Krishna says, I will take care of that. And you don't need to worry about it. You don't need to give up your occupation, even though there are some imperfections there, according to the scriptures. Krishna says, I will take care of that because you will not be affected by the sinful reactions. For example, if the Brahmana is engaged in killing animals in sacrifices, or a Kshatriya is involved in killing friends and families in a war, they will not be incurring any sinful actions. So this is what Krishna is saying here. So the point here is the Brahmana should stick to their work and role, the Kshatriyas as well, the Vaishya likewise, and the Shudra should be, doing their own work and not actually encroaching on others' work and do activities or work which are not meant for them. So this is what Krishna is saying, and this is where we discussed and stopped last week. So I'm going to move on to the next verse, and would like to have a volunteer who would like to actually read this verse, please. Any volunteer, please?
I can read this, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Please.
Sahajam karma kaunteya sadosham api na tyajet sarvaramba hi doshena dhumena agnir ivavrataha.
If you would like to read the English, please, Mataji.
The synonyms, Prabhuji?
Please, yes. The English, the translation should be okay.
Just the translation?
Yeah.
Okay, translation. Every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you very much. So here, Krishna is emphasizing on the fact that if one is endowed with particular qualities and nature, one should continue doing the work prescribed to them. And the analogy which is being given here is every endeavor is covered by some fault. So the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudra, in their activities they are doing, the work they are doing, there will be some fault involved. And the analogy Krishna gives is there's a fireplace, but this fire is actually it's covered by smoke temporarily. The reason it's covered by smoke temporarily is because there are some stones on it. If one removes the stone, I'm sure you've probably experienced that. If it's covered and it doesn't have enough oxygen, the fire will not be big and will not be burning. It will be covered and suppressed, and there will be more smoke than fire. If there's more fire, there will be less smoke. You know that it's a simple thing. So if one removes those stones from this fire, the smoke will subside gradually, and the full effect of the fire will be experienced. So which means we can see the full fire. So what Krishna is saying here, like the example given, if a Brahmana is involved in killing animals in their particular work prescribed to them, it looks like there is a fault there. But actually, this is not a fault because they are doing their prescribed duty and they're doing according to dharma. Similarly, when that smoke is removed, there is fire, which is pure, which is always there. So even if a Brahmana externally appear to be killing animals for sacrifices, but he is doing it because this is his duty, and there's always a good outcome out of it. Because superficially, it looks like they're doing something wrong, something abominable, but that's not the case. That's not the case. Actually, the fact is the Brahmana is doing their work, and which is free from any sinful reactions or actions. Similarly, for the Kshatriya also. Kshatriya are engaged in warfare. They are involved in killing the families and friends, like in the case of Arjun. And even though killing is involved, it seems like it is an abominable activity. This is Ghora Papa, which means very serious sinful action. But the Kshatriya are meant to do that. The Kshatriya are meant to actually involve in killing. So even though superficially it looks like the Kshatriya are engaged in sinful action, but actually because they are engaging in their duty, there is no sinful action and there is no sinful reaction also. And this is what Krishna is saying here. Your actions, Arjun, even though it looks like you are killing your friends, family, uncle, grandfather, and everyone, it looks like you're engaged in killing, in warfare, but you are doing the duty which is prescribed to you, and this is the best thing for you to do. And similarly, like when fire is covered with smoke, if you take the smoke away, the fire will come out, which is the pure fire. So this is what is happening here. Even though from outside it looks like it's an abominable activity, but the fact is the Kshatriya is doing the duty, and this is the supreme activity. So he's saying to Arjun, therefore, one should not give up the work born of your nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault, because you will not have to experience the sinful reactions of it. I just wanted to highlight one point here. During the last couple of sessions, I was talking about the duties of the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras, and the question keeps coming: what are our role? Which Varna we belong to? And what about the work we are doing? The work we are doing at the moment is basically supporting the business, the ventures, the activities of karmis. This is direct sinful action. And then we went into the details of whoever the majority of people born in Kali Yuga are Shudras, very less Brahmanas, very less Kshatriyas, very less Vaishyas, but majority are Shudras. And we talked about how one can qualify themselves to become a Brahmana, Kshatriya. We talk about the Vedic pathway, the Vedic Vritti, and then we've got the Pancharatrika pathway, which we go to Vaishnav follow. But not everyone are actually under the guidance of a guru to be trained to become a Brahmana, Vaishya, or Shudra. Not everyone has actually been given the instructions from their guru for the Panchadatrika system that they are Brahmana or they are Kshatriya, they are Vaishyas. So we are pretty much all Shudras. And the questions which arises here is, what about the work we are doing? This all appear to be that we are engaged in sinful action and reaction from morning to night. We are working for our boss. We're working for a particular company. We're working for a particular individual, and that individual is not a devotee, and that company or that organization doesn't support bhakti, doesn't keep Krishna in the middle, in the center of its activities. So we are basically doing sinful actions, the work we are doing. But we have to look into what Prabhupada says in this particular purport. Prabhupada says here, Prabhupada says that even though these things, okay, let's read together this first paragraph. In conditioned life, all work is contaminated by the material modes of nature. Even if one is a Brahmana, he has to perform sacrifices in which animal killing is necessary. Similarly, a Kshatriya, however pious he may be, he has to fight enemies. He cannot avoid it. Similarly, a merchant, however pious he may be, he must sometimes hide his profit to stay in business, or he may sometimes have to do business on the black market. These things are necessary. One cannot avoid them. Now, this is the important bit. Similarly, even though a man is a Shudra serving a bad master, he has to carry out the order of the master, even though it should not be done. Despite these flaws, one should continue to carry out his prescribed duties, for they are born out of his own nature. So here, we are pretty much all of us are in this particular situation. We are serving a master or masters or an organization or a particular individual who are not promoting or engage or keeping Krishna in the center. But by our nature and our activities and karma, we are put into this particular situation. And what do we do? Well, Krishna Prabhupada says here, even though this person is a bad person, we still have to carry out the order of the person, even though it should not be done. And despite these flaws, one should carry out our prescribed duties. So we have been put in such situations where we have to work for people we don't want to work for because they're not engaged in Krishna consciousness. But what do? Do we engage? Do we get sin? Do we get sinful actions and reactions? Well, here Krishna says, because we are working as Shudras, serving others, Shudras' quality and work is to be the servant of others. So one has to keep doing, but one has to keep Krishna in the center, because Krishna will talk about it later on. Whichever activity we are, whether we are Shudra, whether we are Vaishya or Kshatriya, one has to connect it to Krishna, which means one has to do it for Krishna. So whatever work we are doing, we should have this mindset or meditation that the work I am doing, I'm doing it to actually for you, Krishna, for your pleasure. Like what Arjun was doing. Arjun had to kill friends and families, but he actually was ordered by Krishna to keep doing this because this is his duty. Prabhuji, you've raised your hand, I can see.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So I have got just a question. So just linking this one to Srimad Bhagavatam. So Savanakadi sages, they were saying to Sudha Goswami on one thing about the people. Swavitviraho vustakaraihi samstaha purushaha pasuhu natkarna patopeto jatu nama gadagrajaha. And people who are glorifying their masters, who never say the word of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who never glorify the Supreme Lord. So such kind of people are compared with Swa, that is a dog, with Viraho, Ustra, Karaihi, a stool-eating pig, and then a donkey, and a camel. So likewise it is compared. So now, could you please link those things here, Prabhuji?
Yeah, so yeah, these people who we are working for nowadays, they are like that. They don't have any conception of spirituality. They have not got any conceptions of they are Atma, they are a spirit soul, and their constitutional position is to serve Krishna. They are bereft of this knowledge, unfortunately. But we are put into this situation, and what do? We can't just give up because that's not recommended. Just give up our work and go to the forest and actually be secluded, because not everyone will be able to discard everything, give up everything. Their mind will still be attached to sense enjoyment, sense objects, and things like that. So it is not possible to do that. These people you've just mentioned, they are exactly this. And if you see, this world are being run by these individuals, cats and dogs and donkeys and asses. Just to remind ourselves, in 1969, I think, if you read the introduction of Ishopanishad, Prabhupada actually gave a lecture which has been included in the introduction of the Ishopanishad in Conway Hall in London. I think it was in 69. And Prabhupada says they were in this hall, Conway Hall. It's near Holborn Russell Square. If you get a chance, still there, this hall, you can go there. It's a theater because Prabhupada went there. Prabhupada gave a lecture, and there were lots of personalities who came. They were actually dressed in suit and ties and very smartly dressed, what we call smart in our modern day language. And Prabhupada said to them, you are like suited and booted animals. You have come here and you're listening to me. Not exactly the same word, but the gist is this. He's saying you have to understand you're the spirit soul. And if you're not engaged in Krishna Bhakti, your life is like, engaged like Pashu Dharma, which means eating, enjoying, mating, defending, all this. If you don't have the concept of spirituality and understand your connection with Krishna and understand that you are actually a servant of Krishna because you're an Atma, you're merely a suited and booted animal. So this is non-different from what the Bhagavatam is saying, what you just mentioned here. But how do we link that? Unfortunately, as I said, we cannot actually just give up and just go to the forest and engage in renunciation, because not everyone is ready for this. So we still have to work, and there will be flaws there. As Krishna says here, there will be flaws. As a Shudra, we are working as a servant of others, isn't it? A servant means a Shudra, and we're working for others. Once we're working for others, we're a servant of others, but we are put in this condition because our past qualities and past karma. What we have to do is to connect the work we are doing to Krishna and keep Krishna in the center. One cannot just give up. One has to keep Krishna in the center. And as I mentioned earlier, one has to keep this in mind. Whatever work I am doing, whatever income I am getting, I'm using it for the purpose of pleasing Krishna and spreading this Krishna bhakti. So we are put in this situation. We can't just give up and go. Bhaktisiddhanta gives an analogy about this. He says that I will give you this story. There was this king, Janaka. Shukadeva Goswami was sent to Janaka. Maybe some of you know, it's a very famous story. It's found in the Mahabharata. Shukadeva Goswami was sent to Janaka to learn about jnana, about spirituality. So we all know Janaka, who was the father of Sita Devi, had a big palace and very opulent, and had all the facilities, servant, nice gardens. The palace was studded with jewels, lots of opulent food, opulent furniture, and all this. So Shukadeva Goswami went and met with Janaka and said to Janaka, I've been sent here to actually learn jnana, learn from you, get knowledge from you. And Janaka said, I have nothing much to teach you. What I have to teach you is, the only thing I will tell you is, I'm going to give you this lamp, take it in your head, and go around the palace and the gardens and everywhere, and come back to me. So, but before he went, he asked Janaka, Janaka Maharaj, I've been sent to your place to learn about jnana and knowledge and renunciation, renunciation as well. So I find it very difficult to imagine you're living in this such a big palace. You are surrounded by sense objects and sense gratification. I cannot understand how you're able to live in this kind of environment at the same time being a devotee of the Lord. That's very difficult to do. So Janaka said to him, okay, take that lamp on your head, go around the palace, go around the garden, go around all the rooms which are in this palace, and then come to me. So Shukadeva Goswami took that lamp on his head, which was burning, and then he spent significant time going around the palace, the gardens, all the rooms, the kitchen, the quarters of the king, the quarters of the queen, in the assembly, the sabha, and all this he came, and then he came to Janaka and said to Janaka, I've gone everywhere you've told me. And Janaka asked him, so what did you see? And Shukadeva Goswami actually replied, I didn't see nothing. And Janaka asked Shukadeva Goswami, so how come you've gone everywhere in this palace, in this big kingdom? How come you haven't seen anything? And Shukadeva replies, and he says, my mind was always focused in that lamp. I was making sure that this lamp doesn't extinguish, doesn't burn. So that's why I was making sure that this lamp keep burning all the time, because you've asked me to take this lamp and go around and come back with this lamp. So my mind was always focused on this. So Janaka replied to him and he said, Shukadeva, you asked me how do I live in this big palace, surrounded by such opulence, surrounded by all this sense gratification and all this sense enjoyment? How do I live? But at the same time, I'm able to be a devotee, remain very serene and calm and focused in my sadhana, in my devotional service to Lord Shri Krishna. So this is how I do it. Even though I'm surrounded by all these sense gratification, sense objects, and all this opulence, my mind is always on Krishna, because everything I'm doing it for Krishna. So the center of all my activities is Sri Krishna. That's why I'm not disturbed by all these activities. So what I'm trying to explain here, Prabhu, is even though we are surrounded by these dogs, camels, asses, and all these irreligious people, we can still be in this environment. But at the same time, if we focus our mind that whatever work we are doing, we're doing it for the pleasure of Krishna, the external factors will not affect us. We can still do it. This is the point I was trying to make. So yes, this is a situation, and this is how we have to learn from Janaka. Janaka is the Mahajan. Mahajana Gata Sapantha. Srimad Bhagavatam recommends one has to follow the footsteps of the Mahajan. And Janaka is one of the Mahajan. And Janaka is showing us how one can live in this world surrounded by all these distractions and all this Maya and all these karmis and non-devotees, but still one can still be focused. So this is how one should learn how to do it. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So this is an instruction to us that even though we are, like Prabhupada says here, similarly, even though a man is a Shudra serving a bad master, he has to carry out the order of the master, because that's the work. According to our karma, this is what we have been given as a position to do, the work we are doing at the moment. And one has to do it for the pleasure of Krishna. If we do it for the pleasure of Krishna, Krishna will take away all the sinful actions and reactions, if there is any, while doing these activities. So this is what we are learning here. Yeah, so we will move to the next verse, which is verse 1849. Anyone would like to read this verse, please? Any volunteers? Anyone?
If no one does, I shall do that, Prabhuji.
Okay. All right.
असक्त बुद्धिः सर्वत्र जितात्मा विगतस्पृहः नैष्कर्म्य सिद्धिं परमां सन्न्यस्य अनादिगच्छति. Translation: one who is self-controlled and unattached and who disregards all material enjoyments can obtain, by practice of renunciation, the highest perfect stage of freedom from reaction. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Now, this is where I read the first two verses of the Bhagavad-Gita, because the answers to Arjun's questions, what is sannyasa, what is tyaga, and Krishna replied. So Krishna is building us to this point, how one should become a sannyasi, how one should actually renounce this world. Because one has to remember, spiritual life or Krishna bhakti involves detachment. If there is no detachment, there will be no progress. The barometer of one's progress in spiritual life is actually the detachment, how much we are detaching from this material world. Prabhupada actually was asked this question: how do we know we are progressing in our spiritual life? And Prabhupada say, the more you detach from this material world, the more you're progressing. So this Bhagavad Gita, as I mentioned earlier, when I was alluding to the first and second verse, that this chapter is called Moksha Yoga. Moksha means the exit, actually leaving this place. And Krishna was asking about what is sannyasa, what is tyaga. And gradually, Krishna started to explain the three modes, the three types of sannyas, and gradually the three types of work governed by the modes. And eventually, Krishna talks about the varna, the Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra. So what Krishna is trying to show here, whatever work we are doing, if we do it for the pleasure of Krishna, this is actually real sannyasa. Now let's read the purport of what Prabhupada is saying here. Real renunciation means that one should always think himself part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and therefore think that he has no right to enjoy the results of his work. So this is sannyas. This is real renunciation. One has to think that one is part and parcel of Krishna. One is the servant of Krishna. One is a spirit soul, and our swadharma and swabhava is to be a servant of Krishna. So real renunciation means one should always think himself part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and therefore think that he has no right to enjoy the results of this work. So whatever work we are doing, we have to offer it to Krishna. This is real sannyasa. So which means one who is self-controlled and unattached. So one who is self-controlled means one who is able to control his senses, the working senses and the knowledge acquiring senses. So the working senses are the arms, the legs, the genitals, the rectum, and the power of speech. And the senses which are for knowledge acquiring are the eyes, nostrils, ears, taste, touch, and all this. So if one is able to control all of this, which means engaging all of these senses in Krishna's service, and also the mind is totally focused on Krishna, and one who is unattached. Unattached means to be unattached from the sense objects, which means sense of touch, sense of smell, sense of taste, sense of hearing, and sense of smell. So anything which give sense gratification, if one is actually detached from it, right, and is self-control, so which means engaging everything in Krishna's service and detached from those pleasures of the senses, and one who disregards all material enjoyments. So anything which is material and gives temporary pleasure to the living entity, if one is able to actually detach from it, and by practice of renunciation, so by detaching from all these distractions, being controlled in the senses and the mind, and detaching oneself from the sense objects, and detaching from the material enjoyments, by practice of renunciation, this is the highest and perfect stage of freedom from reaction. So if one is able to do that, one will be able to free oneself from bondage. Because as it has been described earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, if one is still attached to the sense objects, still attached to sense enjoyments, is still performing activities which is not related to Krishna, which is not for the pleasure of Krishna, there is bondage there. Only in devotional service, there is no bondage. Only in devotional service, there is no bondage. If we're doing anything outside of devotional service, there will be reaction to the activities we're doing, and reactions means one will have to take birth again to fulfill the reactions of those actions. So which means there will be karma involved. So any action which is not for the pleasure of Krishna will be sinful, and it will result in sinful actions, and will have to have reactions, so that the living entity has to come back in this world and suffer those reactions. And this is what it is called samsara. Sansarati iti samsara, which means one who goes into a cycle all the time, if one is not engaged in devotional service. So if, like what Krishna says here, if one does the opposite, which means unattached disregard material enjoyments, self-control, and by practice of renunciation, by being renounced, by detaching oneself from all these sense objects and sense gratification. This is the highest stage and the highest perfect stage of freedom from reaction. One will not be suffering any reaction, and one will be able to eventually, this is sannyasa, this is to get moksha. This one will be able to detach himself from this material world. So as you can see, I was mentioning earlier that these subject matters are quite elevated because they're talking about detachment and renunciation, which is quite difficult for us to do, but it's not impossible. It is not impossible because the principle has been laid down by Krishna himself. Whatever we are doing, we have to connect it to Krishna. We have to do it for the pleasure of Krishna. If one does this in this mood, there will be no reaction to those activities. Actually, one will progress even more. One will actually give pleasure to Krishna and eventually achieve bhakti and devotion for the Lord. So, yeah, this subject matter is quite elevated. It is. It talks about sannyas. One has to prepare oneself for the exit from this world. This is what it deals with here. And it is not impossible. It may be difficult from the material perspective, but if one follows Krishna's instructions, one will be able to achieve the required success. So we'll move to the next one. 1850. Anyone would like to read this verse, please? Anyone? I hope you're all with me. I can't see anyone on the screen, but I hope it is making sense.
Devashish Prabhuji is going to.
Hari Bol Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Mampi will do it.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Siddhim prapto yatha brahma tathapnoti nibodhame samasenaiva kaunteya nishtha jnanasya ya para.
Ms. Mataji, would you like to read the translation, please?
Yes. Thank you. O son of Kunti, learn from me how one who has achieved this perfection can attain to the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman, the stage of highest knowledge, by acting in the way I shall now summarize.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. So, yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, Krishna has prescribed the goal, how one should be, detaching from everything, control of the senses, and disregarding material enjoyment. So the question is, how do we do that? Because Krishna knows that these questions are actually revolving in Arjun's mind. How do I do this? Because remember, this Bhagavad-Gita is being spoken by Krishna to Arjun, because this is the message which has to be given to the world. So the questions we are having, Arjuna had the same questions as well. And Krishna is actually following, the thought pattern of Arjun and answering those questions one after the other. So here he's saying, O son of Kunti, Arjun, learn from me how one who has achieved this perfection can attain to the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman. So this stage is called Brahman. Brahman means the stage where one is equipoised, one is not disturbed from the external environment, from the material world. One is neither happy, neither sad. One is completely satisfied. One who is actually situated in realization. All these qualities will come very shortly. So Brahman, this is a stage. This is a stage where devotees should actually aim to be. The stage of highest knowledge. By acting in this way, I shall now summarize. This is very short purport, So we'll just read it very quickly. The Lord describes for Arjuna how one can achieve the highest perfectional stage simply by being engaged in his occupational duty. So, as we mentioned earlier, if one is stick to our occupational duty and the duty for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this is the key. Performing that duty for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one attains the supreme stage of Brahman simply by renouncing the result of his work for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. So this is the key here. Whichever position we are, we have to renounce the work, the result of the work for the pleasure of Krishna, of the Lord. This is the key. That is a process of self-realization. The actual perfection of knowledge is in attaining pure Krishna consciousness. So this is the end result we're aiming for. We as devotee, whatever we are trying to do, we just try to do it for the pleasure of Krishna. This is real sannyas, as Prabhupada mentioned in the earlier purport. Real sannyas is giving up the results of our work for the pleasure of Krishna. The actual perfection of knowledge is in attaining pure Krishna consciousness. That is described in the following verses. Now, very interesting verses coming up here. Any volunteer, please? Any volunteer?
I can do if no one is there, Prabhuji.
Yeah, go ahead. Prabhavati Mataji, yeah.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare.
51 to 53.
Yeah.
Buddhya vishuddhaya yukto dhrityatmanam niyamya cha shabdadin vishayam styaktva ragadvesho vidasya cha viviktase vilagvashi yata vakkaya manasaha dhyana yoga paro nityam vairagyam samapashritah ahankaram balam darpam kama krodham parigraham vimucya nirmamah shanto brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Okay. Translation, Mataji, please.
Okay, Prabhuji. Translation. Being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, who controls his body, mind and power of speech, who is always in trance and who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship and peaceful. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice. So, here you are. This is the person who is actually, is actually situated in the Brahman platform. So one has to be purified by his intelligence. Now, what it means by that is, it's called Jnana Yajna. We're talking of Jnana Yajna here. Jnana Yajna actually means one has to engage our mind in hearing and in learning the Shastras. This is where intelligence will come. We're talking of not material intelligence here, but we're talking about spiritual intelligence. And the first and foremost intelligence is one who has to understand that he is a spirit soul. If one understands this is I am the spirit soul, this is where everything starts. And everything which the person connect with this understanding, this is real intelligence. One has to understand that I am the spirit soul. This is first and foremost thing. And purifying by his intelligence would mean hearing the scriptures, hearing Krishna Katha, hearing from devotees, association with devotees. The knowledge one once received will actually purify his existence. And that intelligence will actually help him make real progress in spiritual life by being able to make the right decisions. So if one have the knowledge of the subject matters of what Krishna's instructions are, he will be able to be guided by this knowledge to make the right and appropriate decisions so that he progresses further in Krishna consciousness. So one has to actually be purified by his intelligence. And how do we do that? Is by actually hearing, reading, association with devotees, association with saintly persons, reading the scriptures, the words of Krishna, Bhagavadgita, the glories of Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam, the glories of his devotees, all the scriptures. That's what I mean, you know, by hearing, by learning from devotees, by reading the Bhagavatam, reading the scriptures, reading the glories of Krishna. This is how one will be able to purify his intelligence. Because when I was speaking of Jnana Yajna actually means, the scriptures explains that when we're doing a yajna, for example, we're doing this Agni Yajna or Homa or Havan, we call. We have a Brahmana, we have the Samagri, and we have the Havan Kunda, and then we have the Palam. The Palam means the end result of the Yajna. So the Brahmana has to be there. The Samagri or the Havish, whatever we are putting in the Havan Kunda, in the fire, you know, has to be pure and should be there. The Kunda should be there with the fire. And eventually, if the right mantras are recited by the Brahmana and the pure Havish or the Samagri is given in the Homa by the Brahmana and the Kunda is there, the Havan Kunda is there, the ultimate result or the Sankalpa which has been done prior the Yajna will be fructified. The person, the Yajmana, will be able to receive the full result, the Palam. Similarly, this Jnana Yajna which we are talking about, the speaker is there, the one who is speaking about the subject matter from the Bhagavatam, from the Bhagavad Gita, from the glories of Krishna. The knowledge which is coming from the scriptures, this is the Havish, this is the Samagri. Like we're talking about Krishna's instructions, the knowledge which we're having here. This is the Krishna Samagri. This is the Samagri which we are putting in the Havan, the Kunda. And the Kunda is actually our ear. Our ear has got a hole. The speaker represents the Brahmana or the person who is giving the sharing the knowledge. But the knowledge is coming from the scriptures. So that knowledge from the scripture goes into the Kunda, which is the ear of the person. And eventually, the realization which comes after the speaker has spoken the knowledge from Krishna's instructions going into the ear, the realizations which comes is the Palam. And this is what actually means being purified by intelligence. One has to hear, one has to read. Okay, somebody speaking and reading is the same thing because we are putting this knowledge which we are putting in our ear can come from somebody speaking, can come from the scriptures by reading also. So we're putting in our Kunda. The Kunda is the ear, the Havan Kund. And then the realization which comes afterwards is the Palam. And this is what we're talking here, being purified by his intelligence. So by receiving this knowledge from those mediums, one will be able to have the knowledge which is required, which will be able to help the devotee make the right decision and act according to the scriptures and eventually progress in Krishna consciousness. So this is what is called Jnana Yajna. And by doing Jnana Yajna, one is able to purify one's intelligence. But as I mentioned, we're not talking about material intelligence like biology, science, physics, mathematics, and all that. It's not about this. This has got nothing to do with intelligence. Intelligence is anything which is related to Atma, to the soul. Anything which is for the soul or on the level of the spirit soul, this is real intelligence. And this is all from the Vedic Shastras. And controlling the mind with determination. So the mind has to be controlled. So if one wants to reach this position of self-realization, which Krishna has told in the previous verse, one has to actually control the mind with determination. And we all know how difficult it is to control the mind, as Arjun himself said in the Bhagavadgita, that Chanchalahi Manavha Krishna, Pramati Balavadadam, Tasyaham Nigraham Vanye, Vayu Iva Suduskaram. Arjuna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, it is more difficult to control the mind than to control the wind. So Arjuna is ready to control the wind, but not able to control the mind. So this is, we all in this situation, in this boat. But Krishna says, with practice, one was able to actually do it. So one has to keep practicing and practicing and practicing. One time, I'll share something with you. Once, my Guru Maharaj was asked the question. He was asked this question. He was asked, a devotee came to him and asked him, Guruji, how do I control the mind when I'm chanting Hare Krishna? How do I control the mind? When I'm doing devotional service to Krishna, when I'm doing my deity worship, when I'm doing seva for Krishna, my mind is always jumping from one place to the other. How do I control the mind? And Guruji answered, Guru Maharaj answered, and he said, who is asking you to control the mind? Just chant. We are asking you to chant. We are asking you to do devotional service. We're not asking you to control the mind yet. Just by doing this, your mind will be controlled gradually in the due process. So one has to remember, the point is, even one is not able to control the mind now, but by practicing and practicing and practicing, and by engaging in the prescribed devotional activities, one will eventually be able to do that. So one should not be bothered or become dejected if we're not able to control the mind, because controlling the mind is not the end result at the moment. What we need to do the chanting first. By doing the chanting, eventually the mind will be automatically come under control. By doing regular devotional service, the mind will still become will come under control. So one has to keep practicing, keep doing. Yes, it's very difficult, but it's not impossible. And do not focus on that we have to control the mind. Do what's required first. That's the first step. And the next step will be the mind will be controlled and one will be able to progress. So this is the point I want to make. I think there's a chart here. Okay. Right. And giving up the objects of sense gratification. Being freed from, so as I've discussed before, one has to give up the objects of sense gratification. It is not easy again. One has to gradually do this. The best way to give up the objects of sense gratification is to associate with those who have given up the objects of sense gratification. If one is able to associate with those people who have given up the objects of sense gratification, this will become easy for those who have attachment for sense gratification. Being freed from attachment and hatred. So raga dvesha is called raga dvesha. So if one is able to come to this Brahma Bhuta platform, where one is doing everything for Krishna, the only focus is to please Krishna, even if there is, along the way, there will be incidences where people, will be sense attachments to sense objects, or there will be hatred along the way. So this person will not be affected by this. One will be above this attachment and hatred. One will not be affected by attachment and hatred. One who lives in a secluded place. So Krishna is saying here, to achieve this position, one has to live in a secluded place. Now, we mentioned that before, it is not easy just to give up and just to live in a secluded place. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says something interesting about this. He talks about Janaka Maharaj. He talks about Janaka Maharaj living in that palace and living in this environment where he's got lots of opulence and lots of distractions in terms of sense distractions, but he's still able to live in a way where he was on the Brahma Bhuta platform, which means he was able to be in self-realization. What Bhaktisiddhanta says regarding this is that one should not be just eager to drop everything and go to the forest and live as a sannyasi or in a secluded place. Why? Because if the tendencies are still there in the heart for attachment, even if one goes to the forest, one will be attached to the trees, one will be attached to the animals, one will be attached to the rivers, one will be attached to the mountains. So the attachment will still be there. What Bhaktisiddhanta says is that it's better for those people who wants to be in the Brahma Bhuta platform or position of self-realization, it's better to go in a place where there is sadhu, so which means sadhu sangha. It's better to have sadhu sangha because this is also referred to as a secluded place, which means secluded from all distractions, but within the protection of sadhu sangha. So if one is within the protection of sadhu sangha, whether one is with devotees, this is a secluded place as well. And who eats a little? So eating a little means one who has to eat only to keep this body and the soul together, not eating too much, not eating not what's required, but eating a little, only what's required. Who controls his body, mind, and power of speech? The one who is able to control his body in his activities, which means refraining from sense enjoyment. One who is able to control his mind, which means sama, which means one who is able to focus all the time on Krishna. And the power of speech, one who is able to talk, but talk only about Krishna consciousness and not talk about anything else. Who is always in trance, which means in samadhi, one who is always focused on Krishna, who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things. So one is free from all this, free from false proprietorship, and always peaceful. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. So this is how one reaches the Brahma Bhuta platform. Because Krishna will say in the next verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nashotati Nashkankshati Sama Sarvetu Bhuteshu Mad Bhakti Labate Param. Which means if one is situated in this Brahma Bhuta platform, one is free from all hatred, anger, all sadness and happiness, and is able to achieve me. So as you can see, this is building up on the real sannyasa quality which Krishna was talking earlier in the Bhagavad Gita and explaining to Arjun gradually. So real sannyasi, just in a short line, the real sannyasi is one who is situated in the Brahma Bhuta platform and who engages everything in Krishna consciousness. You do not have that person. Krishna never talks about a person who is a sannyasi has to wear this saffron cloth, has to be, has to live in a forest or should not be doing any activity. No. Krishna never talks about this. Krishna is talking wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if you engage everything, if you engage the result of your activity, if you detach yourself from the result of the activities and give it to me and offer it to me, this is the real sannyasi. So that's why Krishna built up from the question of Arjuna from the beginning, talking about the varnas and then the work they do and how one can be able to detach themselves, even though one is situated in this in this position where they have to work, like Arjun. And that eventually reflects on us, our life, our conditioning, and our material position. How do we get out from this? And this is the answer. One has to engage everything in Krishna consciousness. One has to offer everything what we're doing for the pleasure of Krishna. And eventually, one will come to this platform which Krishna is talking about here. So I will stop here. Just over 5 minutes. I will hand that over to you, Amolga Prabhu. I don't know if there's any questions for the next few minutes, and then I will answer those questions. I have to mention here very quickly that these subject matters, unfortunately, they are very abstract, which means there's some concepts which are difficult to grasp, and your mind will be carried away. But the recommendation is one keep reading and reading and reading on these instructions, and eventually one will get the message. So.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So wonderful class. Dear devotees, so if you have got any questions, kindly raise your hands or speak, unmute and speak.
Nice, Prabhu. For a long time.
Hare Krishna, Amar Prabhuji.
How are you, Prabhu?
Amar Prabhu, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Yeah, you were saying that, can you hear me, please?
I can, yeah.
Yeah. Those who want to go to the, what platform you said? Associate with devotees and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was the platform you said?
Brahmabhuta platform.
Brahmabhuta platform.
Yeah.
So that you don't get distracted by the material attractions. You associate with devotees. Now, is that for males or females? How females do it?
Sorry, are you trying to say that
yeah.
should male do the sadhu sangha, or should female only do the? Is that what your question is?
Because both are equally eligible to get moksha, right?
That's right.
Brahmabhuta platform. So for the males, there's no problem. They can associate with the males and all that. What will the females do?
No, here when we're talking about Brahmabhuta, we're talking of a Bhuta. Bhuta means living entity. We're not talking about male or female here.
Yeah, I understand that, but
anyone can do that. Now,
yeah.
Okay, from the spiritual sense, there is no distinction between male and female.
Theoretically, yes, but practically speaking.
No, practically speaking, why not? I mean, does that mean that female do not go to the temple? That's where sadhu sangha takes place. Do not go to satsanga. They do go to the satsanga. They are able to go. They have to go. Nobody stops them. So I can't see any.
Does it mean in the temple or in the forest or something?
No. It means anywhere. Sadhu sangha can happen anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the temple. It doesn't have to be in the forest. It can happen anywhere. And if someone doesn't have sadhu sangha, is not able to associate with devotees because they live somewhere remote, difficult to have devotees, Bhaktisiddhanta wrote a letter to one of his disciples once, and he said, if you can't associate physically with other devotees, you have to hear and you have to read. This is equivalent to sadhu sangha.
Yeah, I know it's nothing like meeting in person. You can read and all. You can even have a robot or something like that.
No, I agree. No, I agree with you. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
We hear from Srila Prabhupada's tapes, morning, day, night. We continuously hear. We have lots of Prabhupada disciples who are present. I am sure if you ask them, do you think it will be the same if you substituted the association, the physical association you had with Prabhupada, with his tapes and with his books?
Yes.
Will it be the same if you substitute the physical association they had with Prabhupada with the books? It is not the same. They would say no. The experience I had by being with Prabhupada is different. So what do we do in that case? We don't hear Prabhupada's lectures. We don't read Prabhupada's books if Prabhupada is not here. The question does not even come whether we should or shouldn't. We should actually, by default, if Prabhupada is not here, the instructions are there. We read the instructions. We hear from him from the tapes and recordings or whatever it is. Because just because he's not here, doesn't mean that we don't hear anything or we don't read his books. Similarly, if you don't have the association of devotees, that doesn't mean you just end it there. You use the books, you use the recordings, you use any means you have to increase your devotional service by hearing, reading, whatever it is. This is how it should be done if you don't have association with devotees.
Yeah, now we are doing it. I was thinking, when all these electronic gadgets were not there, early days, how did the people do it? Even 100 years back, nothing was there. They had only books, or even not even books, palm leaves, basically. How did they associate?
Why are you worried about others?
No, I mean,
they've come and they've gone already. So let's see what we can
why
do.
I'm worrying is they did better than us. That is what I'm telling.
Yeah, the reason is because there's a reason for that. The reason is because their Smarana Shakti was much more powerful than us, which means in those days there was no books, there was no printing labs and all this. If you wanted to have a copy of a book, you had to manually copy that on palm leaves or any other way and take it for you. There was no photocopy or Xerox machine or whatever it is. No, but there was no need for that in the first place. There was no need for that because that's why the Shastra is called Smriti. The Smriti is for Smaranam. Smaranam means to remember. So they were able to remember those books, inside out. And even till the latest, maybe 50, 70, 60 years ago, I was hearing someone recently talking about someone memorized 100,000 verses of the Mahabharata. So this is how knowledge was received and kept through the Smarana Shakti, through remembering. But gradually, as you know, I don't know how many mobile phones you remember, mobile phones number you remember. But me, I don't remember. I remember only one, only mine. I don't remember anybody else's. So this is how our Shakti has gone down. So we have to take help of books and recordings and internet and all this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, definitely.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Haribol Ratan Prabhu, yes.
Yeah, even so, just a couple of texts before you mentioned, actually number 48, yes, 48. There is a purport you mentioned, yeah, 48. Yes, the purport, yes. You mentioned about this is the already Amok Prabhu mentioned here. Shudra has serving a bad master, because in Bhagavatam it's mentioned as a camel, hog, or donkey. These are the Bhagavata's second canto, 2 to 19, text number 19, 2 to 19. It was mentioned clearly, because if you are follower of the those who has no spiritual knowledge, those who never glorify Lord, if we are following them, that means we are going to die. We are going to hell. This is the first thing. And second part I have to mention also. In first part of first sentence you mentioned Brahmana has to perform sacrifice. It is also it's mentioned, Prabhupada mentioned in Canto 4, chapter 4, text number, I think, remember, yeah, text number 6. In the purport, he has mentioned the when the Brahmana doing as a sacrifice is not killing an animal, because they are testing their mantra. This is clearly mentioned, because nowadays people are killing animal and they are consuming the meat. It's not the purpose of the Jagga. Jagga is performing to test their mantra, and they reback the life, or they can transcend another life form. So these are the purpose of sacrifice. So these are two things I have questioned. First thing I am repeating. First one you can give highlight, because if you are following the bad master, our destination is not good. Second thing, as a joggo, it was mentioned, Brahman has to do joggo, but it is not the animal killing. Just
So so when we are talking about, like, both of your answers are here in this purport actually. So let's start with the second one, the Brahmana killing an animal. In conditioned life, like Prabhupada explains here, in conditioned life, all work is contaminated by the modes of nature. Even if one is a Brahmana, he has to perform sacrifices in which animal killing is necessary. Now, as you rightly mentioned, animal killing is there. The animal is actually killed, but the purpose of the sacrifice is to give the animal another rejuvenated body. This was the purpose of the animal killing sacrifice. But the animal is killed. But the purpose of the yajna, of the Brahmana's action, is to give the animal another rejuvenated, younger, more healthy body. But what Prabhupada is saying here is, as you can see, there is animal killing here, but it is not the killing which is being happening in the slaughterhouses. So from the external point of view, when somebody is seeing the animal is being killed, it looks like this is a fault. This is something abominable. But actually, this is not the case, because animal killing is there, but it's for a higher purpose, as you rightly mentioned. So we have to understand that this is what Prabhupada is trying to say. Prabhupada is not saying that Brahmana kills animals. This is not the message which is being given here. The message which is being given is, even though animal killing is there by the Brahmana, but it's for a higher purpose, but what is in this situation, Prabhupada is not giving the full story, because this has already been discussed in the Bhagavadgita, that animal killing is done for higher purposes. But this is the message. This is what Prabhupada is saying. The animal killing we're referring to is to these sacrifices which give a rejuvenated body to the animal. And it's not similar like the slaughterhouses. One has to be clear on that. It's not that what the Brahmana is engaged with. Now, the second question is, we have all these, the Bhagavatam says, we have all these people we are following who are like dogs, camels, and donkeys and all that. Now, there is something we have to highlight here. When I was mentioning about what Prabhupada is saying here in the purport, similarly, even if the man is a Shudra serving a bad master, he has to carry out the order of the master. We have to remember, we are not following the master in terms of what they want to do, where they want to go, and following in the principles, following in their footsteps. This is not this. What we are talking here, we're talking about being in a position where we have to work for someone who is engaged in some sinful activity, or an activity which is not connected to Krishna or for the pleasure of Krishna. If the person is, for example, working in an environment which is promoting gambling, for example, if that person is situated in that type of work, he doesn't have to do gambling. He's in that work because for some reason, according to his karma, he has ended up in this particular position. But that doesn't mean he has to follow the person who is doing gambling and he starts doing gambling. It doesn't have to be like that. What we're talking here, we're talking about this person happened to be working in that environment where the masters are engaged in sinful actions, but the person is working, and the result of that work, the remuneration, which means the money they get, they're engaging it for Krishna's service. Now, I'm giving quite an extreme example that somebody is working in a gambling environment. But even if you see it from the broader perspective, from the spiritual perspective, if somebody is working as a teacher, for example, so teacher nowadays have to teach so many things, and there are some things which which teachers have to teach, which are not in line with our Vedic Shastras. So, does that mean that person has to leave the job? Does that mean they has to quit, and look for something else? But what they can do, they should not be practicing the what they are teaching, which are against the Vedic principles, but they should be, doing the work, but at the same time, not follow those principles and do what Krishna says. So this is what we're talking here. They don't have to follow those people. They are there because of the karma. They've been put in this situation. They have to do their work, even though it's not the good outcome, the best outcome. But at the same time, they don't follow these people. They follow the instructions of Krishna. But the point here is they use the work, the remuneration, the wages, the salary for the pleasure of Krishna. That's what we're trying to say here. We're not saying they have to follow these people because you say they will be taken to darkness, they will be taken to annihilation. We're not following them. They don't have to follow. They're not. You have to follow Krishna's instructions and engage this work in Krishna's service. That's what it is.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. So that means it is extreme conclusion. This cannot be extreme conclusion. You are not recommend for this thing to work in the slaughterhouse. So
No.
So that means the conclusion is we cannot conclude that if it is slaughterhouse, it is recommended work in the slaughterhouse or gambling place.
If you have a choice,
adversaries.
if you have a choice to avoid it, if you're able to avoid it, you avoid it. But the principle is, even if someone is working in a slaughterhouse, they can still achieve liberation. There has been, I can't remember, maybe next time I will bring that person's name. There was a great devotee who was actually working in a slaughterhouse, and he got moksha. The name has escaped my memory. I can't remember. He was working in a sorry, who's that?
Is it Dharma Vyada?
Dharma Vyada. I think Dharma Vyada. Yeah. So he was working in a slaughterhouse and he got liberation. But that doesn't mean everybody should be queuing for an application in all the slaughterhouses. That doesn't mean this. What it means that if you can avoid, it's good. Avoid it. Gambling, slaughterhouses, and all that. Avoid it. But if by your karma, you're forced to be in that environment, engage the remuneration, engage whatever you're earning in Krishna's service. That's the point.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So we are 13 minutes past 9 o'clock. So we shall stop here, Prabhuji, if you are happy with it. And then
yeah.
Would you like to just, you were saying to speak on?
Is that okay to just mention it a few minutes? I won't take long because I thought that it is appropriate in this current period to mention this.
Yes, Prabhuji, yeah.
I won't take long time. Yeah. Thank you, Amogalali Prabhu, for allowing me to talk about this. Now, I couldn't hold myself. I couldn't stop myself from mentioning this because we are entering a period which is very auspicious for us as Gaudiya Vaishnava, as Vaishnavas, as devotee of Krishna. We're entering in a very auspicious moment. I just wanted to talk for a few minutes on this subject so that for me to share my thoughts on this so that everyone we can be, we can tune ourselves, we can put ourselves in the mood and and make use of this time, of this period as much as we can and take all the benefit we can. So As you know, today is Sharad Purnima Day, which is considered to be the end of the monsoon period in India, and then the start of the new month. And we're also entering into this period, which is the Damodar Mass and the Kartik Mass. I just wanted to say that I'm sure all of you know that this month is very, very dear to devotees. This month actually has witnessed the pastimes, one of the most sweetest pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna. The pastimes which has been commented by various acharyas from different sampradayas extensively on these particular pastimes. They have given pages and pages of their realization of a flavor of the devotion on these particular pastimes of Krishna. They have actually, for us devotees who are engaged in bhakti, who are engaged in Krishna consciousness, who are engaged in pleasing Krishna, it is one of the most cherished pastimes, and it is the pastimes which actually shows how bhakti is the highest forms of yoga which the Vedic Shastra promotes. In Krishna's pastimes, of course, I am talking of the Damodar Lila, which happens, happens on Diwali Day. These pastimes has got lot of meaning and lot of messages which actually devotees can learn and understand. I am sure all of you are quite familiar of this pastime. You know it very well and you've read about it. The purpose of me talking about it today is because I couldn't not talk about it because today is the first day of the Kartik months and the Damodar Mass starts from today. These pastimes shows us the highest position of bhakti, even which Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, or the demigods are not able to achieve. But somebody who is not well versed in the Shastras, somebody who hasn't gone to school or have gone academic qualification, somebody who doesn't live in big towns or cities, somebody who doesn't work in a big position, has been able to achieve this level of devotion, which very few people achieves. I'm talking of Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda hasn't gone to any big universities or schools. Mother Yashoda was a housewife and was just tending the cows and engaged in milk and milk production, ghee productions, and yogurt and all this. Mother Yashoda wasn't living in a big town, in a big house, in somewhere very opulent. Mother Yashoda was living in Gokul, Vrindavan initially, and then Gokul. But what Mother Yashoda has achieved, not even Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, who are considered the greatest demigods, like Lord Shiva is one of the greatest, is the greatest demigod, the greatest, devotee of the Lord also. But what Mother Yashoda has achieved, not even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma has been able to achieve that. And this is not, that's what I was talking earlier. Intelligence is not based on, academic intelligence. Intelligence is based on the spirit soul, is based on the Brahma Bhuta level, and is based on Aham Brahmasmi, I am a spirit soul. This is where real intelligence is. And the first and foremost intelligence is one has to understand they are a servant of Krishna. And Yashoda Mai has actually taken it to a very, very high level in his Vatsalya Bhav of being, showing the highest level of devotion to Krishna, even which is not achieved by great demigods like Brahma and Shiva and other demigods. So what I'm trying to say here is that this month is very dear to the devotees. This month is has got the most cherished pastimes of Krishna, and the acharyas have commented, have written a lot on this. So offering the lamp, there is a story in the Purana on this. For interest of time, I won't mention it, but there is a very beautiful story how this offering of lamp came. This offering of lamp has been done by Lord Brahma and has been done by Lord Surya Dev as well. It mentioned in the Puranas. So this offering of lamp, which we do every day in this month, morning and evening, do not take it as a very simple action. This has been done by greatest of the greatest demigods, Lord Brahma, Surya Dev, Surya Narayan also did this. There is evidence of it in the Puranas. And we are also engaged in this because this action of offering a lamp to Krishna has got lots of punyas and benefit. Okay, we're not after punya or benefit, but it gives lots of devotion. Krishna is very pleased. Let's put it that way. The Puranas put it very loud and clear. During this month, offering a lamp to Lord Krishna, what makes him happy? So use this month to read about the pastimes of Krishna, to hear about the pastimes of Krishna, to engage in more devotional activities for Krishna, for his pleasure. And if you're able to go to the Dham, if you're not able to go to the Dham, you read about the glories of Krishna while he was in the Dham. There's a multitude of scriptures available for us to put ourselves in this mood. And first and foremost, offer the lamp to Krishna because he says he's very pleased when a lamp is being offered to him. Lord Brahma says in the Puranas, if one is not able to offer a lamp even, which is very, very unlikely, one should chant the holy name of the Lord. So if you can, increase your chanting for the pleasure of the Lord, and you will see the tangible benefits of bhakti. You will see how you will be progressing. So that's why I wanted to say. I couldn't hold myself because today the first day of Kartik Damodar Mass, and today is the Sharad Purnima day. We're starting from today, so it had to be told. So I asked Amoga Prabhu if he could allow me a few minutes after the Bhagavad-gita session to talk about this. So I'm sure you will do whatever needs to be done during this month, and I wish you a happy Damodar Mass, happy Kartik Mass, and you progress in bhakti and Krishna consciousness even more. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Prabhavati Mataji, you want to ask? Okay, thank you so much, Prabhuji. So I request all the devotees, because Prabhuji has kindly shared all this nectar and also glories of Damodaran. So 3 loud Hari Bols to Vihari Prabhuji. I request all the devotees unmute. Hari Bol.
Srila
Hari Bol.
Prabhupada ki
Hari Bol.
Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We are happy, so we shall move on to the next part of our program, Narsimha prayers. By Prabhavati Sachidevi Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji, if you are ready, so kindly.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Namaste Narasimhaya Praladaladaye Hiranyakashipurvakshaha Shilatankanakalaye Ito Narasimha Parato Narasimha Yato yato yami tato narasimha Bahe narasimha hridaye narasimha Narasimha matim sharanam prapate Tava kara kamala varenakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Brindam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Sri Narasimha Jaya Narasimha Jaya Jaya Narasimha Prahladisha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Brahma Jaya Narahari Jaya Narahari Jaya Narahari Jaya Narahari Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Srila Gurudev Shri Narasimha Bhagwan ki
Yeah.
Jai Bhakt Prahlad Maharaj ki Jai
Jai.
Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai
Jai.
Vancha kalpatarubhishcha kripasindhubhyev च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Chief. Thank you so much, Mother, for the beautiful Nasima prayers. Okay, so we are already nearly 30 minutes past 9 o'clock. Dear devotees, if you have got any questions or anything else, so kindly share in the WhatsApp group, or if it is short bullet point way questions and the straight answers are there, so kindly ask, otherwise we will respond in the group. Okay, so if there are no further questions, we shall conclude our session. And have a good night, Krishna consciousness. Good night, everyone, and happy Kartik month from tomorrow. See you tomorrow morning for Japa session. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Jai. Jai.
Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hari Bol. Thank you very much for holding back. Yeah, so what I wanted to ask you, I wanted to actually phone you, but you know, Saturday is always a busy day for me. You know, when I do talking and all that, because I have to prepare and all this. I hope that the last few sessions was okay. The Bhagavad-Gita class.
Yes, Prabhuji. So devotees are there relishing all this katha and everything. Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering because the subject matter in this chapter 18 is very, very elevated, and it's just we are just scratching the surface. There's more to it. But I hope that it's not too heavy for devotees and they are able to grasp.
It's not heavy, Prabhuji. So we are already in the Bhagavatam. So all devotees, they have come to just beyond the Bhagavad Gita as well already. So what I felt, their questions and understanding, it is more elevated. So now I am able to understand. So it seems they have digested entire Bhagavad Gita. It appears.
Okay, and the explanation of these few verses we've done was okay, was it clear enough? Huh?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Okay, there was no controversies or anything.
No, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Okay. I take it from your word. Anyway, no, that wasn't what I wanted to discuss. I wanted to discuss something else. You know,